This is Second Cutting, a story about land, people, animals, and how they all work together. My name is Amelia Cronin. I'm here in Laurelville, Louisiana with Dr. Shannon Gonsoulin. So, you mentioned grazing down summer pastures to prepare for ryegrass. What's the logic behind that timing and how does it affect soil health going into winter?
If we graze it down and there's very little grass that's there, the summer grass is going to go dormant, so it's not going to come back. So we graze it down and it'll stay down pretty much until next spring. But when we graze it down, then we expose the soil. Therefore, when we throw the seeds out there, the soil contact with the seed will allow germination, right? So we graze it down to where if you don't graze it down, then the seeds get stuck higher up on the grass blades because the ryegrass seed is very, very small and very light. Then that allows you to have more soil contact with your seed. And it also allows us to not produce any carbon by having a chop. So we don't chop our property, we just broadcast it right on top of the ground. We have to use a little extra seed because not all the seed will germinate correctly. So by broadcasting, you don't have to chop, you don't have to come back and drill. You just let the cows graze everything down. You come back and you broadcast the seed and fertilizer at the same time. And that helps us because once the seed starts to germinate, the fertilizer's there. We get a pretty good jump on the grass growth.
Even with a dry summer, you said the forage base is holding steady. What specific grazing or fertilization strategies made that possible this year?
When you have dry times of year and you graze the grass short and the soil gets exposed and the soil dries out, just like if you go under an oak tree, where it's shaded, most of the times it's going to be damper under a tree than 20 feet out in the sun. Same principle with the grass. If we don't graze it too short and we leave it about 8 to 10 inches tall, then the soil under the grass stays damp and cool. So it retains the moisture longer than if you would graze down the grass too tight. So during the summertime, whenever we start to see that it's getting dry, we make sure we don't graze down. There's an old adage that's used in pasture grazing, which is you graze half and you leave half. That's kind of what we try to do. So we try not to overgraze in the summer because if you do overgraze in the summer, then the grass doesn't have a chance to come back and keep and stay in front of you.
How do you decide which pastures to fertilize and which to rest at this time of year?
We try to utilize Mother Nature as much as we can. So whenever we're like strip grazing now, we'll graze those pastures down to the dirt. Plus, the animal manure and urine is all getting dispersed, stomped on, stepped in the ground. That adds to the fertilization of that location. So it decreases the amount of fertilizer, if any. Areas that we do strip graze, we could put a third probably on it and still get the same rate because we concentrated the nitrogen from the urine and the manure in a smaller concentrated area. So it helps tremendously.
You ended the newsletter by saying the land looks good, the cattle look better, and we're thankful for both. What does gratitude look like in ranch life for you right now?
Fat cattle. If you want to gauge an operation, you don't have to do anything except look at the cows, to be honest with you. Now, there's a lot of factors that go into that, right? A tremendous amount of factors that go into that. But if you drive down the road and you see a bunch of fat cattle, chances are they got a pretty good program. Don't get me wrong, there's some skinny cows out there too that do well also. And sometimes there's a reason there's a skinny cow out there. If she's got a big calf on her side, her nutrition is, so there's reasons sometimes. But for the most part, if you drive by a ranch and they got good grass and fat cattle, they're doing something right.
Looking ahead to winter, what's one thing that you're focused on? Maybe a challenge or a goal before the end of the year?
Going into the winter, what's our focus? To hopefully have um, grazable pasture and enough forage to get us through the winter. That's always we always hedge, and we always cut more hay than we need to. You know, we always plant a little more ryegrass than we need to. But Mother Nature can throw a lot of kinks in the spoke. Armyworms can come and completely nail your ryegrass until we get a frost. You got to replant. That happened to us a few years ago. That's why we don't plant ryegrass until November. So armyworms is one thing. Water, rain is another thing. Moisture. You don't you throw your seed out there, you don't get no moisture for 3 or 4 weeks. Well, the birds have a great time with ryegrass, so it takes away a lot of your yield. So Mother Nature, man, Mother Nature is always the one that is going to make you or break you on a pasture based program.
Other than army worms, like what other kinds of pests are a routine occurrence?
That's pretty much the biggest thing that we run into. We don't there's other insects out there that do mild damage, but the armyworms tend to be the one that really knocks us back. But that's the only one that we watch for. If there's white egrets in your pasture in the morning
Hmm.
with the cows, you better go check because that's when the armyworms are most active in the early morning or the late afternoon. And by the time you find them, you'll have a third of your pastures already dying. They're very, very quick, very ravenous. They can move. That's why they call it army worms. They can move pretty damn quick.
But they don't. They can't survive frost, right?
Right, the frost
Okay.
kills them, and they come out in the morning, eat the bottom of the grass blades, eat the stems. Therefore, it starts to kill the whole root. And then they go back in the dirt during the day when it's hot, and they pop out again in the afternoon. So they normally there twice a day, and through the night. But when the white birds are there, you better go check because they're eating armyworms. Way Mother Nature kind of lets us know what's going on sometimes.
If you look for this, if you're paying attention, you can usually.
Right,
There's some signs, usually some kind of where.
right. The standard, the normal, something abnormal. What's going on out there? Always got to go check. You got one cow by itself in the pasture. That's not normal. When she separates from the herd, you better go check on her. She's got something going
Hmm.
on. All the cows congregated by the water trough. Not normal. Go check. Make sure the water's on. If you look at your animals and you do things routinely every day, there's a routine. They follow routine. You follow routine. When that routine doesn't seem routine, something's going on, and you better go take a look at it because there's probably something you need to manage.